So coming to talk about everything, so many of you are struggling with web development or just love the way you see programmers work on projects. Absolutely. But the web entirely is large and conducive for those who are adapted to it. And with the growth in technology, we are all moving to an arena where AI controls everything. If you have been following recent tweets from what the biggest programmers in the world like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, they are tweeting and talking about, you understand that the world is leading us somewhere to something bigger and something greater. So everything is entitled or evolving around artificial intelligence. So, and by so doing, everything is evolved around the internet, and the internet comprises of only web and everything that entails on the web. So this opportunity, you will learn more about web development and it is and the basis and the evolution of what it looks like in the different arenas. Guys, most of what I'll be talking in this class is not what you will see on my screen, so pay attention to what I say. And if you cannot get me well, please do write on the chat zone so I know you are not getting me well, or if my voice is not fluent, please do write on the chat area so I know I have to improve on something. All right, let's continue. So basically, what you will learn so far as this series is concerned, for those of you who are present in the group where you were added or which you joined by what means, this is what we will cover. So basically, we have 4 classes so far and it will run for 3 to 4 days depending on how you guys follow up. So our day 1, we'll talk about our today. So we'll talk about what web development is and some basic terminologies about web development. Our day 2, we'll talk about content management systems, and day 3, we'll talk about how to build a website using a content management system such as WordPress, and we'll have someone who is a better developer and he's really good on the field that will take you guys on that, so you guys would learn how you can design a website using a content management system like WordPress. And day 4, this is what the day you have the appropriate content in which you need. So because for you to be able to build websites or design stuff for the internet, you have to understand design principles. So we'll also talk about design principles. So let us begin. So day 1, web development. What web development is. I suppose you all have a knowledge about what web is, and the degree of this rests on your expectations. But this is not a get rich quick scheme. So I'm not coming here to teach you guys how you can get rich quick. This is not a get rich quick scheme. But by so doing, you can convert this into a skill that tends to bring you money. There are many people out there who are making money from designing websites and doing things about the internet. So it takes time for you to learn, it takes time for you to adapt to it, and it takes time for you to make money out of it. So if somebody is telling you that this is a get rich quick scheme, guys, this is not a get rich quick scheme. So you have to put in more effort into this in order for you to make bring out something. So you can either take this and turn it into a skill to land you a job, a better job tomorrow, and you can work as a freelance developer or whatever. So the advantage about web development is you can turn to learn good job opportunities out there with people, and they tend to pay you more without even seeing you. So you can work as a freelancer. So a freelancer is basically someone who sits in his house and works from home. So there are many people out there who can employ you. If you have ever sat in your house and you design a logo or did a flyer for somebody sitting in his own house, that means you worked for the person as a freelance. So you can also turn to design websites for other people as a freelance. So you sit in your home or on your comfort zone and you design websites for them. So web design is a development work involved in developing a website for the internet or intranet. Web development ranges from developing a simple static page of plain text to complex web application, electronic businesses, and social network services. And defining what web design is, you guys must be confused about when they talk about developing a website for the internet or intranet. The internet is a globe that is like it is really big, where many of you turn to think or try to check on how it works. So everything about the internet lies on website. The internet just tries to connect data together. So when you get on the internet, you are searching for something. What you search on the internet is data, and that particular data is being fetched and returned to you as plain text or images or videos. So also you must be wondering about in the definition we said something about web development can range from developing a simple static web page of plain text to complex web application electronic businesses. So web development is grouped into two figures. So these two figures can be either you developing a website from scratch using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, using Python to develop websites. But all of these all entitles in one thing, guys, making it visible on the internet. So talking more, so web design evolves around three things. So you are speaking to the right audience or speaking to a specific audience. At the same time, you are getting positive feedback or negative feedback, and then you do possible updates. So that's what web development is all about. It's just like you designing a flyer for a client, and then as a graphic designer, and then the client looks at it and enjoys it. At that particular point, you are speaking to your audience. And if the person enjoys and recommends you to another person who needs a flyer, that is giving you a positive feedback. And if in turn the person gives you a negative feedback and tells you to update on things, guys, the next thing you have to do is like you do your possible updates. So that is how web design works. Web design is just the same as graphic design or any other strategies in which you take to make money. But knowing real, this is not a get rich quick scheme. So let's talk about now types of websites since we are talking about web development. So we basically have many types of websites out there. There are thousands of websites that are available out there of which you can check out. So listing a few, we have NGO website, blog website, social media website. An NGO website is being managed by an NGO or an NGO based company. A blog website can be managed by anybody. And there's a possibility or ways of which you can make money out of owning just a website online. All right, how can you make money from owning a website online? Now you can monetize your website for AdSense. When you monetize your website for AdSense, now you run ads on your website and you get paid per click. Everybody that visit and per visit. So Google tends to pay you, any AdSense company of which you are working with tends to pay you per click or per visitors you get. So we have blog website. This is the simple, most common website out there where you turn to share content to people about what is available or trending topics. People turn to read your analytics and stuffs from there and learn more. So that is a blog website. If you go online and you search for something and it displays, or you see something displaying out of the internet, out of your query, then surely the content was written in form of a blog. Okay guys, yes, I'm recording the course, so if you have less data you can watch the course after, but I would advise you to stay till the end. Okay, let's continue. So social media websites are just websites such as facebook.com, instagram.com, and other websites where you can share content with people. People tend to like your posts and other stuff. So those are the types of website. And for a website to be online, we need to talk about something called web hosting. So web hosting is basically where your website sits, but we will talk about that later. So the notion of domain name. A domain name is a string that identifies a realm of administrative autonomy. So a domain name is just like the name of your website, or what the identity of your website. So what people can search online to see you, that is what is called the domain name. For example, Facebook run under the domain facebook.com. Instagram run under the domain instagram.com. So you also have examples, Sagicam runs under the domain name sagicam.net.com or whatever. So a domain name is just simply series of strings of autonomy. I know most of you will get confused by this. So domain names are used in various networking contexts for application specific meaning. And the basic principles of psychology that enholds while developing a website and choosing a specific domain name entitles on mirroring, what to do, and the psychology of color. So you have to understand these three basic principles. I'm sorry I did not put them out in a graphic form, but I will try while uploading the course, I will add some graphics to it to make it really look good. So I spoke of the basic key principles of psychology while designing a website. You have to understand lines on mirroring. We have what to do and the psychology of color. So talking about hosting, um, and sorry, types of domains. So we have basically many types of domain names. As you know, maybe you have seen so many. So we have the .com, which is the commonly used. We have the .org, which is used by organization, the .gov used by governmental agencies. We have the .edu for educational institutions. We have the .net for networking organizations. You can have the .bi, the .euv. So there are thousands, and that there are many types of domain names, and it just entails on how it ends, reading it a .com, .org, .this, .that. So basically there are many types of domain names, and with these guys you will have to talk about what enables you to see a website online. So we have a client area and a server area. So for you to be able to view a website online, there is specifically a client area and a server area. So the client area manages the data you see, how the data is being presented, while the server area manipulates organizes the data or stores the data for proper use. So it allows access requests. So you request for something and it in turn displays to you something. And the client area constitutes of the hypertext markup language document, also called the .html file, that contains all the data about the website. So there are thousands of programming languages outside there of which people can use to build web applications or websites. And for you to be able to view something online, it has to be running on a markup language. So whatever programming language you use, every web compiler will always compile it and turn it to a .html file for it to be read by a web browser, being it a web application. All right. So, and web design also entitles, you can be a web designer that you design things from scratch using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or you can be a web designer that design websites also from scratch using, sorry, not from scratch, but designing websites using content management systems. So we have example of content management systems we'll talk about in our tomorrow's class, and we'll talk more about the content management system in which you will use to design the website on day 3. So you can use content management systems such as Wix or WordPress. There are thousands of content management systems outside there. We also have bubble.io, and we have really many of them. So you can use a content management system, and all of these content management systems, they all entice on one principle: on compilation. So on compilation, your data has to be synchronized and converted into a .html file that can be displayed on the internet. And I'm sure many of you must have you know much about HTML, CSS, so you can design basic websites from scratch and you can work with them. So for a website to be online, it has to be on a web host. A web hosting service is a type of internet hosting service that hosts websites for clients. And for an example of a web host, we have Namecheap.com, we have Hostinger, we have Fast Host City. So we have many types of hosting companies out there, and there are some characteristics that you have to look forward to before choosing a specific web hosting service. So without the best web hosting service, your ability to run successfully website is going to be seriously hindered. So there is dizzying array web hosting providers that competing for your business. So it just depends on your properties or whatever you want that enables you to choose a specific web hosting for yourself, depending on what you want to do. So there are thousands of web hosting services, but for you to enter into web hosting service or host your website, you have to understand how the web hosting operates, their downtime, their access speed, and other features about them. At the end of this course, I will share you guys a PDF document that will also help you guys more to understand what I'm teaching throughout this series. So okay, so talking about web hosting and everything, we have to talk about the difference between a web designer and a web developer. So many of you are thinking about web developers and web designers. If you are working with a content management system, you are surely a web designer. But developers are those people that code from scratch. So there are thousands of platforms that can help you to create or basically meet up to the demands of being either a web designer or a web developer, depending on your demands. So throughout this, we'll help you guys to talk more about content management systems. So talking more about hosting services, there are many features of which you have to take into consideration while choosing a hosting service. So you have such as bandwidth. So bandwidth is the first thing you need to do when you are shopping for a web hosting service. So you evaluate the disk space and the bandwidth which you need, and analyze everything properly the way you want it to be organized. So you basically, if you go to a hosting service such as fasthostcity.com, you check how the type of services they give out and how they do their analytics. And guys, at the end of this, I'll also show you guys how you can get free hosting. So you can get free hosting, and the only thing you have to get is a domain name. So the next thing you have to check is the capability. You have to check on the reliability. You have to check on the security of the hosting service. You have to check on the uptime. You have to check on the load time. You have to check on the customer support. You can also check about the location of where the hosting service is located. And without hesitation, I'll also show you guys how you can get the free hosting I spoke about. And it is really very easy for you to get free hosting today. So I will show you guys at the end of this. So we'll talk about a URL. So a URL is called the Uniform Resource Locator, and the Uniform Resource Locator is just basically the what you type on the internet, or like the directories of a specific website on the internet. It always starts with the HTTPS and then followed by the HTTPS to colon double slash going forward to the domain name of the website. So that is a URL, and this is also known as the internet address or web address, and this is the location of a web page or file on the internet. Let's take an example. If you have a company called AB Africa, so your domain name will be abafrica.com, and your URL will be https slash, I'm sorry I didn't like include this here, but so your domain name will be AB Africa, and your URL will be https double slash www.abafrica.com. So while uploading this course, for those of you who watch it later, you have everything in there. And also talking about the hypertext transfer protocol, which is secure, depends on the configuration or the protocol of which the website is operating on. So tomorrow we'll talk about content management systems, and you get to learn more about content management systems. At the end of this course, we'll talk about how you, like day 3, you learn how you can build a website from beginning to end, a one-page website or with multiple pages from beginning to end. So there are some basic things you guys have to understand about web design. So web design entails on strong So web design depends entirely on providing a painkiller solution. So you must understand what a painkiller solution is. For example, most of you go over to the to facebook.com. There are many things in which you do on Facebook, like you have to tweet about specific things, you buy products over Facebook, you do things over Facebook. Some of you sell on Facebook Marketplace. So what the owner of Facebook did is the person produced a painkiller. So you guys have to understand how designing a website leads to producing a painkiller. And without hesitation, guys, we'll talk about the differences between the web designer and a web developer. So a web designer creates everything a user sees on the website or software product, including all visual, color, typography, and usability elements. So a web developer writes codes that makes a website functional, whether they work on the front end or the back end server side. So you have to understand this. Being it a web developer or a web designer, they are two different things. So web designers mostly work with content management systems, and web developers mostly work with writing code using programming languages. So a web designer also works directly with a client to create a design or work as part of a team to develop client's vision. So the web designer is attracted or entitled to understanding what the client needs, while the web developer creates and implements design demanded by clients or created by a design team. So you can be a designer, you choose to design a website for somebody, or you choose to create an outlay for some other person to design from. So basically we have different types of people who work on the internet. So the first type of people that we have the front end developers, we have the back end developers, and web designers. The web designers can be grouped into those who work with the content management system and those who do UI UX designs. So UI UX designers are those people who design just user interfaces which can in turn be further developed by web developers. So depending on whatever niche in which you fall in, you can still be a creator of your own, and you really get to learn, implement more energy into it, and you work more. So guys, this is basically the end for today, and I thank you all who joined today. I will be sharing the video after for those of you who did not follow up to watch, and it was really great. So if you have a question, you can send it forward to the question box. So tomorrow, in our tomorrow's class, we will talk about content management systems. We'll enter deep into the WordPress content management system. So from tomorrow, the classes will kind of be interesting and interactive more, because you get to learn about something new. And in our day 3, you get to build a website from scratch, which will really be a great thing using WordPress. And we have someone, I'm sure he's present here, and he will guide you guys and take you guys throughout the design phase, the creation phase, and everything in which you need to understand about building websites with WordPress. And in our last class, we'll talk about we'll talk about the design principles, the various things in which you have to take into consideration while developing website for people or developing websites for clients. Being it all, guys, I thank you all for being a part of this tutorial series, and I wait to see you all available in our next session. So I thank you all, and you are still all welcome. I wait to see all of you in our tomorrow's class. And nevertheless, if you have any questions, please, you can message me directly, or I'll open the group right now for you to send in your chats in the WhatsApp group. So thank you all for joining, and it was a pleasure having you all here. So our tomorrow's class will be really longer than this. This was just the introduction class, of which we don't have to cover so much, just the introduction for you guys to understand the basics of what web development is all about. And in our tomorrow's class, it will be a little bit longer, because we'll get to talk about content management system. We'll do an introduction to our content management system which we'll use, and then we'll have a detailed understanding about how the content management system works. So in the third class, we'll now talk about building a website. Like, you guys will build a website, you build it live with someone here. So I wait to see all of you here. All right, guys, I'll be ending the class now. If you have any questions, please post it forward in the group, and I will get back to you. I'll open the group so you guys can send in your questions. Thank you all.